Now here is the risk that Brown had to take with I love you, Cleveland, and I love you, Ohio, and a very pleasant welcome to this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan along with Ryan Smith. Great to have you aboard on this week's show. We're going to be featuring Ken Miles, CEO of the Big Play Network, because, if you may not know that Ken is the owner of racehorses as well as his responsibilities here with our network. And he had the winner in the Preakness 2 years ago. Seize the Gray was the horse, you may recall. Well, his trainer, Dwayne Lukas, one of the most famous trainers, if not the most famous trainer, along with Bob Baffert, just passed away at the age of 89. So we thought it'd be nice later on in the show to have Ken on and talk about the man, because he was more than just a racehorse trainer, as you will indeed find out. Much to cover with the Cavs. I want to address the rumor that's been swirling on the West Coast as well as here in Ohio about LeBron James possibly coming back. We'll look at that. But first things first, Ryan, how you doing, pal?
Well, I'm here, Bruce. I'm here this week, so I'm feeling a lot better. Was under the weather, obviously. Pat McGuire filled in for me, so I'm sure you were in good hands, but I'm excited to be back with you on Bonus Time.
Yeah, you look healthy, so it's good. I know you were on your way to work and you turned around, so it's good that you're healthy and back on the job. All right, the Guardians got beat by Chicago last night, 5-2, the final at Wrigley Field. Former Guardian Matthew Boyd painfully reminded the Guardians front office why they wanted to keep the veteran left-hander before he was offered a much more lucrative contract by the Cubs. Now, Boyd threw 7 great innings last night, giving up merely 2 runs, 5 hits, striking out 5. And the Cubs gave Boyd all the cushion that he needed in the second inning off of Gavin Williams, manufacturing 3 runs against Williams. Williams wound up going 5 2/3, giving up 4 runs on 7 hits. But this game is yet another example of our team's inability to score enough runs. Do you know that going into this game last night, we ranked 26th in runs scored out of 30 teams? That was last. We were last in the month of June. We ranked 27 out of 30 teams in outfield offensive production. And the month of June was one of the worst months in Cleveland baseball history. In May of 1910, the Indians won 8-12, hitting 193. In April of 1971, the Indians won 6-14, hitting 198. In April of 2021, most recently, the Indians went 12-12, hitting 206. In April of 1907, the Indians went 6-7, hitting 206. And I don't know why they love that batting average number so much, because in June of 2025, the Guardians went 9-16, hitting 206. Ouch. The AL Central Division standings right now find Detroit, of course, with the comfortable 53-32 record. That's a .624 winning percentage. That, by the way, is the only the Dodgers have a slightly better percentage at .628, 54-32. The Tigers are 53-32. We now stand at 40-43, and we are 12 games behind Detroit. Minnesota and Kansas City are 13 back. Now, the wild card race. We're not going to win the division. We've gone through this in previous weeks. Forget it. It's mathematically a near impossibility. But let's look at the wild card race, because I know I was just in the grocery store the other day, and my buddy Dino, who runs the produce department, big baseball fan, Guardians fan, he still thinks there's hope. And I was telling him, I said, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Seattle, going into today's play as we record, have a 1.5 game lead on the LA Angels, 2.5 game lead on Boston and Texas, 3 game lead on Cleveland, 4 game lead on Minnesota, and 4.5 game lead on Kansas City. The problem is that everybody's playing against one another, and it's so difficult to pick up ground. And I'm going to get into that in the next segment. But our schedule, let's be realistic about this. Our schedule between now and the All-Star break is 2 more games. 1 more game against the Cubs. We have these games against the Cubs remaining. Then 3 against Detroit at home. 3 at Houston. Those are 2 divisional leaders. The Cubs are a divisional leader. And then we finish up with the 4 with the White Sox. Then we hit the break. After the break, we have 3 against the A's, feasibly to pick up ground, hopefully. 4 against Baltimore. 3 at Kansas City. 3 home against Colorado, so it eases up a little bit. That takes us to the end of July. But get this, in August and September, and the front office has got to diligently look at this, which they do. We have 7 games remaining with Minnesota, 3 at home and 4 away. We have 6 games with Texas. They're a contender. 3 at home and 3 away. We have 7 against Tampa Bay. Right now, they're in a wild card spot. 3 at home, 4 away. We have 3 remaining with Seattle, a wild card contender. We have 4 remaining with Kansas City. They're at home. By the way, we get Seattle at home. And we have 6 against the division-leading Detroit Tigers, 3 at home and 3 away. Plus, throw in a 3-game series in New York against the Mets. So is it time to sell? Now, Class A is signed through 2026. He's got a club option for 27 and 28. And I've thrown him out as a possibility, but then again, I'm reconsidering because of that contract. I looked up his contract, and unless we are overwhelmed, which we could be, because you could get something big for Class A, I don't know if I trade him, because we can hold on to him and the rest of the pen. He could replace him with Cade Smith, but the rest of the pen is strong. Now, is it time to bring up Brito, DeLauder, Kifus? Yes. Even Bazana, for goodness sakes, who was hurt at the beginning of the season. So, again, I am at that point where the division isn't even in our mind. It shouldn't be in your mind, the divisional crown. But wild card, we have to be realistic about this. I would love to. I've talked about this before. A rotation of a healthy Bieber, followed by Bybee, Williams, Ortiz, and Ciccone, I like. Backed up by a Logan Allen. I like that rotation very much for next year. And the bullpen's going to be very strong as well, Ryan. So I'm looking to 2026 rather than trying to grasp at straws and salvage this year.
Hope is a dangerous thing, Bruce. Everybody says that to me. But the thing is about the Guardians, it was quite the June to forget, Bruce. I believe their winning percentage, .3 something, was the worst in a month since 2012. You mentioned all the averages there. I believe at 2012, that was a man by the name of Manny Acta, so we never seen this low when Terry Francona was manning the ship. Now, is that a shot at Stephen Vogt? Not necessarily. He can't go out there and swing the bat, but he is the manager. Bruce, you had a worse June. Put it this way. You had a worse June than the Rockies and the White Sox. So if we're looking forward to next year, I think that's a good signifier. That it might be possible to do that. A lot of game left, a lot of baseball to watch, Bruce. But the hard part is it's not fun to watch, and the product has been really bad as of late.
More realism about the Guardians as we have now reached the first half of the season. That's next. Bonus time with Drennan. Big play.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com today.
Again, Big Play CEO Ken Miles coming up, talk about the passing of his trainer, racehorse great Dwayne Lukas at the age of 89. Back to the Guardian state right now. The Detroit Tigers, they were 8 games under 500 as late as August 10th last year. All but one of their everyday players this year have produced an OPS, now that's on base plus slugging, above the league average. Houston, despite losing Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman and injuries to their pitching staff, are still the team to beat in the West. As we are now at the halfway point, I figured I'd share this with you. New York Yankees' once comfortable lead in the East is all but gone. Tampa Bay and Toronto have been surging. The Blue Jays have overcome a terrible start. They had a streak here recently where they won 12 of 14 from late May through early June. Detroit is aiming for much more than just a playoff berth this year after losing to the Guardians in the division last season and then in the playoffs. Their hopes are to win their first World Series in more than 4 decades. Meanwhile, the Yankees' path back to the World Series appears to be more difficult than last season when they earned a bye in the first round, because Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Toronto are hoping to be playing deep into October after each missed the playoffs last year, and in the Mariners' case, the past 2 years after snapping a 2-year postseason drought in 2022. Texas, the LA Angels, and our Guardians are still in the hunt for a wild card. But as I've been stating here on the show recently, when you have this many teams competing for a wild card, you can't fall 4 or 5 games back, because all these teams are playing each other between now and the end of the season, knocking each other out. And so it's very, very difficult to gain ground unless you go on a long streak or play like Toronto did, winning those 12 of 14 games that I mentioned earlier. So, I mean, it's going to be a real tough mountain to climb, even in the wild card, Ryan.
Yeah, remember I keep saying hope's a dangerous thing. I guess if I'm putting on my optimism cap, Bruce, if you remember last year, once the Guardians kind of ran away with the division, the AL Central, it was the Detroit Tigers who had a really strong second half and were one of the best teams heading into the postseason, and you saw what happened. They almost knocked us out. In fact, if it wasn't for Elaine Thomas smack off a Tarek Skubal, we could be talking about history being different here, Bruce. But again, you talk about cannibalizing the wild card teams. It's a long stretch, Bruce, and I'm ready to see some of these young kids come up nonetheless.
As we speak, the voting is still open, but not much time left because it closes out at noon on Wednesday. We're recording here in late morning on Wednesday for the Phase 2 standings. Guerrero at first in the American League, Torres of Detroit at second. Wilson leads from the A's over Bobby Witt at short. The outfield, Riley Green, Javi Baez of Detroit, both of Detroit, and Mike Trout. Catchers Raleigh, who else, my goodness, and Ryan O'Hearn, who was the happiest guy in the world when Devers got dealt to the National League. But our Jose Ramirez is looking to be the starting third baseman. It looks pretty safe, Ryan. 5th straight, 7th selection overall, 4th start it would be. Only Ken Keltner, going way back in Indians history, 5 times. Kenny Lofton 4 times with at least 4 starts. So Jose's right on the verge.
Yeah, and well-deserved, Bruce. Alex Bregman obviously could possibly get the nod, but I don't see that happening. You mentioned he missed time. So, I mean, it's Jose's spot. And the most interesting one, I'd say, for the American League at least, is Jacob Wilson at shortstop, Bruce, betting 340 as a rookie, looking to get the nod over Bobby Witt. It'll be exciting nonetheless, but we're far from the days when we'd be sending 3-4 All-Stars.
And Stephen Kwan is still breathing. I mean, Trout missed a lot of action early in the season, and that's the L.A. market, obviously. But Kwan, I think, is very deserving, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, people underappreciate Quan, I think. It's easy for us to say as we see him every day in Cleveland, but just the batting average speaks for itself, the consistency, and he's such a 3, 4, 5-tool player. It's hard to ignore.
Before we get to the next segment, the Cobra has passed. Dave Parker, 74 years old, just died this past week. 7-time All-Star, National League Most Valuable Player, recently elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame, World Series champion in 1979 with the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was the We Are Family team that beat the Baltimore Orioles. He hit .345 in that World Series. World Series champion again 10 years later in 1989 as a member of the Oakland A's, the Bashers. They beat San Francisco in the famous Earthquake Series, sweeping them, even though it was interrupted by the quake. 3-time Gold Glove winner, 2-time batting champion, winner of the first home run derby. In 1985, the contest started in the All-Star game as part of the festivities. Wound up with 2,712 hits, 339 home runs, 526 doubles, 1,493 RBIs, and he actually stole 154 bases. Parkinson's disease eventually got him. Dave Parker, gone at the age of 74. We shift gears to the Cavaliers and a lot to talk about next. Bonus time with Drennan on the Big Play Sports Network.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home by visiting pureavcorp.com.
Well, we knew there was going to be some shakeups because of the apron and the salary cap with the Cavs, and Ty Jerome is gone. He signs a 3-year deal, $28 million with Memphis. We do get Lonzo Ball from Chicago for Okoro. I can tell you, every time there's a trade, I always look at the other team's perspective, and in this case, they're furious in Chicago with Bulls management. They thought they really got ripped off in this deal. Ball is 6'6", 190 pounds, 27 years old, out of UCLA. Was traded to the Bulls in August of 2021, but he missed significant time recovering from 3 surgeries on his left knee. After being sidelined in both 22-23 and 23-24, he returned to game action this past year, but he only appeared in 35 games, averaged 7.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.3 steals, averaged 22.2 minutes. He missed 22 games because of a sprained right wrist. We also have reacquired Larry Nance Jr., and the Cavs have agreed on a 1-year contract for the veteran's minimum. He's now 32 years old. Of course, the son of Larry Nance, the great Cavalier who played with that great team, Price, and what a team that was. Lenny Wilkins was our coach at the old Coliseum. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, I think that team might have won the NBA championship, but we were in the same conference. After 3 years in Cleveland, Nance played in Portland, New Orleans, most recently Atlanta. Averaged 7.7 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 1.1 steals, and 23 and 1.1 minutes. And, of course, with the draft, Tyrese Proctor, a shooting guard from Duke, 6'4", 183, vocal leader, improved his shooting, good playmaker, good on-ball defense, and then pick 58. Oh, God, Ryan, you got to help me with this name.
Just say Niang.
Yeah, Niang, from Italy. He's from Italy. Small forward, 6'6", 190, really good defensively, needs a lot of work offensively. So any quick observations?
Yeah, Lonzo Ball, kind of one of the biggest what-ifs in the last decade of the NBA, Bruce, due to injuries, but a big, imposing guard that can play great defense. 6'6", as you mentioned, and the perimeter defense is probably was the most attractive thing. And all you had to give up was Isaac Okoro, who became a fan favorite, but offense, he wasn't shooting good, and the defense was great, but you had Lonzo Ball, a bigger guard, and kind of see that's why Ty Jerome left. It's like a new identity shift. You're getting rid of these maybe small guards, bringing in a big guy like Lonzo, and then Larry Nance giving you much-needed front court depth behind Mobley and Allen. And if he can shoot 40% from 3 like he did last year, then I suppose it's a great signing. And it's nice to have a hometown kid back who's going to play with some passion.
And the WNBA is returning to Cleveland as well as Detroit and Philadelphia. The Rockers, 2028 will be the season that they return. And that was back in 1997 that they originally started here in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. I'm going to address the LeBron James rumors when we get back. Bonus time with Drennan. Big play. I love you, Menor Nissan. Hi, Bruce Drennan here from my good friends at Menor Nissan. Ray Sminchak, the whole staff. As you know, I've been doing a lot of our shows down in Florida, just returned. Great to be back on the home confines of our beautiful studios here at Burke Lakefront Airport for Big Play. But I got to tell you, I drove my Nissan Rogue from Menor Nissan down to Florida, had the rack up on top with extra luggage. It was absolutely the most splendid, beautiful ride. Just as smooth as could be. My wife also drives a Rogue. We rotated driving down there and back, but I just can't recommend it any more so to you. Get on out there, test drive a Rogue or a Murano or any of the other great products that they have out there at Menor Nissan. Don't forget, they're now in partnership with Infinity of Akron and Infinity of Beechwood. Check those great vehicles out as well. Service department is absolutely fantastic. Went back to the dealership to get maintenance after that long drive down there and back. And give them a call. Set up an appointment. Of course, check out their website at MenorNissan.com. That's MenorNissan.com. I love you, Menor Nissan. Since last week's show here on Big Play with Bonus Time, rumors started cropping up both on the West Coast and here in Ohio about LeBron James returning. Here's his quote when he was still in Miami. I always believed that I returned to Cleveland, finished my career. I just didn't know when. After the season, free agency wasn't even a thought, but I have 2 boys and a wife. Savannah's pregnant with a girl. I started thinking about what it would be like to raise my family in my hometown. I looked at other teams, but I wasn't going to leave Miami for anywhere except Cleveland. The more time passed, the more it felt right. This is what makes me happy. Now, in order to make the money, cap, apron, and all that work, in simplistic terms as I can convey to you, the Cavs are $19 million above the so-called second apron with only 12 players under contract. Essentially, this means that the Cavs would have to find a way to save more than $20 million for a LeBron James trade, just to make it legal and to fill out the roster. Now, can this be done? The answer is yes. But they would have to unload several key players to do it. The obvious piece is Jared Allen, but he has a relatively low $20 million cap figure for the season. And even if you combined him with DeAndre Hunter and Max Strus, the Cavs would still save around $7 million, only $7 million. That's not nearly enough. Now, Allen would be attractive to the Lakers, but to make that work, Darius Garland would have to be included. Now, if you also included Hunter going to L.A., you could bring LeBron and his son Bronny, that's a provision, here to Cleveland, and that would save around $28 million. Another way to pull this off would be to involve a third team, such as Brooklyn, because they have a lot of cap space. But other teams are going to be cooking up deals and will be most definitely contacting Brooklyn about a 3-team trade. So time is a factor. L.A. and Kobe Altman are on the clock with this. They can't wait. They can't deliberate too long because now we're in free agent season. These GMs are, wheeling and dealing. So to wrap this all up, James, I believe, would be more than willing to waive his no-trade clause to come back to Cleveland, provided that his son is included in the deal. And think of this. James wants to win one more championship before he retires. That's the ideal way that he wants to go out. The Cavs are obviously close to winning the Eastern Conference. James knows that the path to the NBA Finals is a lot easier in the East than staying in the West. The Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers are handicapped because next season their two best players are recovering from torn Achilles tendons. So granted, the New York Knicks are poised to seriously contend, but if James stays in Los Angeles, you've got the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. They're not going anywhere. Golden State and Curry are in a win-now mode, let alone Durant and all the other legitimate contending teams in the West. Now, James knows the path to the finals is a lot more doable here in the East. But here's another fact. The Lakers' history is keeping their superstars before they retire. Kobe Bryant until his untimely death. Magic Johnson, Elgin Baylor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jerry West. And the only reason that didn't occur with Shaq O'Neal is because of the feud between O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. And from the Cleveland point of view, are we willing to gamble on winning another championship with James retiring in a Cavs uniform? To give up a lot and gamble that it's got to happen next season or the season thereafter? I say no. I don't think this will come about, but it is possible. Ryan.
I don't think it'll come about, but would I welcome it, Bruce? 100% I'd welcome it. Listen, when I started getting into basketball, it was LeBron James, right? I'd say I started getting into basketball maybe around 2010 when I was 9 years old. And obviously I got a little bit of LeBron, and then he went to the Heat, and I got my redemption when he came back and won us another championship. Listen, LeBron, in my opinion, is the greatest player of all time, and we might never see another player like him. So to get him back one more time before he retires, I think it'd make for an amazing product and amazing television. Now, the one thing is people tell me, you're an idiot. This is going to make the team worse. We won't have depth. Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, and Evan Mobley, you'd be the favorite to win the East hands down. And you're in a win now mode, of course, because you traded for Donovan Mitchell, who's been the second best player in your franchise history, in my opinion. You made your championship window now when you made that trade. So finish it off, go get LeBron, and if anything, the regular season watching it next year, Bruce, isn't going to be fun. Knowing how the last couple seasons have ended for the Cavaliers, they could win 80 games and nobody would care. Donovan Mitchell said it himself. Bring back LeBron, make the product fun. You're guaranteed to go to the playoffs. And with LeBron, Donovan Mitchell, and Evan Mobley in the playoffs in that Eastern Conference, Bruce, we might be holding up another championship. And what a perfect way to go out in your hometown for the King.
As we go into the next break, there's been a LeBron James sighting at a golf course in the Akron area. And LeBron was wearing what, Ryan?
2 words, Bruce. His hat said, "Welcome home."
Ask Bruce segment. Next.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
As I mentioned earlier in the show, the passing of Dwayne Lukas, the storied trainer of racehorses, and our own Ken Miles, the CEO of the Big Play Network, owns horses and employed Wayne as his trainer. So we wanted to get Ken on the show today to actually take a different look at Dwayne Lukas rather than all of his accomplishments: 4 Kentucky Derby wins, 15 Triple Crown wins, 7 Preakness, 4 Belmont Stakes. But Ken, he was so much more, and I learned this from Ken and his wife Mary, so much more than just one of the greatest trainers that ever lived.
Yeah, Bruce, and thanks for having me on. It's a tough time for everybody, and that was close to Wayne. Mary and I were fortunate enough to get close to him at the end, but you come across people in your life that you just know are special. Wayne was one of those guys.
I was fascinated to hear how connected he was with high-profile sports figures.
Yeah, so, as we got to know Wayne, somebody that's that accomplished, you think maybe was in horse racing his whole life. That wasn't the case. He grew up in Wisconsin, got his MBA as an educator, became a teacher, then a high school basketball coach, then went on to University of Wisconsin as the assistant basketball coach, met Bobby Knight, Bobby Knight tried to get him to come and coach with him. And
this is long before he got
into horse racing. Yeah. And again, when you spent time with him, you found out this guy was very accomplished in many things.
So Bobby Knight actually recruited him to become an assistant on his staff. Was this when Knight was in Indiana or Army or where?
Yeah, it was when he was moving into, I think it was when he was going into Indiana. I'm not quite sure on that. But one of the things that he came across Wayne when Wayne was at University of Wisconsin. And Wayne was an intense guy. And Wayne loved the philosophies of Bobby Knight. And one day approached him, and they just sat and talked and hit it off. They became friends, got closer and closer. And then Bobby said, I like the way you think. I want you to coach with me.
That's fascinating. How state of Wisconsin, pardon my ignorance, unlike Kentucky and other states, it's not known for horse racing, is it?
No. So, again, he didn't grow up on a farm. He wasn't mucking stalls. But he was a guy who loved sports, loved intensity, had a friend that had quarter horses, and actually Wayne fell in love with quarter horses, ended up going out to California, worked for a guy that had some quarter horses. Before you know it, Wayne's training these horses and racing. His first horses they ever raced were quarter horses. He made it to the Quarter Horse Hall of Fame before anything with thoroughbreds.
How do you learn to be a racehorse trainer?
It was just one of those things, he was the type of guy. He had so much, you find people that have energy about him and they just attract people. And he befriended a guy who had some horses, and one thing led to another, and learned about it. And it just took off from there.
He had two horses in his great career that came close to winning the Triple Crown. Thunder Gulch won the Kentucky Derby, not the Preakness. Whether he raced Thunder Gulch in the Preakness or not, I don't know. But then Thunder Gulch won the Belmont, and Charismatic won the Derby in 1999, and then followed with a win at the Preakness, and I assume won for the Triple Crown at the Belmont, but did not win.
Yeah. So he, again, we could go on. There's so many statistics. He holds so many records, but he was so transformational in the way he approached training. And if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you, he, back when he first started, it was very common for trainers to just have one set of barns and work within one state. Wayne decided that he wanted to grow nationally, ended up having more than one barn in different states, convinced the different state legislatures, because there's no national governing body, to allow him to do it. And he was the first guy that actually had barns in Kentucky. He had them in Louisiana. He had them in Arkansas. But one of the reasons why he was able to convince the state legislatures to let him to do this was he ran his barns like a business. And I've spent a lot of time back in the stables, and to this day, you see some stables, and it's what you would expect a horse stable to look like. When you go to one of Wayne's barns, it looks like you're walking into a beautiful farmhouse. It's immaculate. It's clean. It's painted. There's not a speck of dirt anywhere that you wouldn't expect it to be. He's got flower planters hanging up in front of every stall, and he was just so meticulously organized that's why he was allowed to do what he did. So if you ever were to go back behind the stalls and saw a Wayne Lukas barn, you knew it, because it's a cut above by far.
I take it that's uncommon to have that many barns in different states, because I know Baffert, who is also one of the most famous trainers in the world, was based in California. And when Baffert got in trouble and was suspended, and we won't go into that, but he really was stereotyped by many of us in the media, not me personally, but I talked to horse racing reporters who didn't care for Baffert at all. But D. Wayne Lukas, tell that story about how the approach he took to all that when Baffert got in trouble.
Yeah. So, again, as Wayne's career took off, he's much like the Parcells. And by the way, Wayne was very good friends with Bill Parcells. Bill's a big horseman. But you have the Parcells coaching tree. You've got the Belichick coaching tree. You have the same thing with Wayne Lukas. He had so many of these trainers that you would recognize now. Todd Pletcher, Brad Cox, they all were assistants under Wayne Lukas, and everybody wanted to work for Wayne. So Bob Baffert decides he wants to get in and goes and interviews with Wayne, and Wayne does not hire him. And Baffert kept saying, why? And Wayne just, for whatever reason, said, Bob, you're going to do your own thing, but I will mentor you. And they became very good friends and close friends, but fierce competitors. And so, again, the media likes to portray a story. In public, it looked like Baffert and Wayne Lukas would go toe-to-toe and could not get along. And they would play it up for the cameras, and then they'd be out at dinner that night, mucking it up and laughing. Wayne was always in Bob Baffert's corner, and Bob, like a father figure, Wayne was to him. So whenever there was a problem, Wayne always reached out unconditionally.
And was
Bob.
like one of the few
And one of the
that
few.
took his side and stood by him when all that controversy surrounded Baffert.
Yeah, and again, we're not going to get into the controversies, but as somebody who's gotten to know the sport very well, I don't know that I agreed with the rulings that came down on Bob. There's no national body governing horse racing. Bob comes from California. He was running under some of the rules of California when he brought his horse to Kentucky and got into some issues there. But Wayne stood up for him. And I can't tell you how many times I was in the back paddocks and Bob would come over and sit down and have a great conversation with Wayne. And I can't say I'd be part of the conversation, but I sure was a sponge listening.
Right. Had to be really a thrill for you and Mary 2 seasons ago to have Seize the Gray win the Preakness with Wayne as your trainer.
Yeah, it was so surreal, so spectacular, and I think now I can tell the story. It was the day before the Preakness, and we were there in the back barns with Lori, his wife, and Wayne, and Mary made a nice little bracelet that said Seize the Gray, and Lori wore it the whole campaign, the whole year. She just never took off that Seize the Gray bracelet, nor did Mary, my wife. But after the training in the morning and you just sit around in the afternoon, that's really when you get to know people. And we would have conversations about life and so many things that really had nothing to do with horse racing. And again, just a great guy.
And in conclusion, I find it fascinating that I learned he was a poet.
Yeah. So I get chills even talking about this. He, as I mentioned, we got to know him very well. And one of the things, he was such a motivator. He always would, he loved what we were doing at Big Play. He was actually the trainer for our Big Play horse. He loved what we were doing with the company My Racehorse, bringing the masses to horse racing. He always was motivational, and he started sharing with me his poetry. And I encourage everybody that's watching this today, go look up one of his last poems. I'm running out of time. I was going to read it on the air, but I got so choked up this morning looking at it, I couldn't do it. Running out of time, and unfortunately he did.
89 years old, though. Great life.
Great life.
Ken Miles, CEO of the Big Play Sports Network. Ken, thanks so much. And best of luck finding a new He won't be easy to replace, sir.
Unreplaceable.
Yeah. All right, Ask Bruce segment. That's next.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Infinity. Luxury experiences for those who dare to be different. Visit infinityofbeechwood.com today.
Before we get to a couple questions in the Ask Bruce segment, played golf yesterday. My dear friend, Dr. Roger Vasquez, he's down in Canton, originally from Pittsburgh, big Steelers fan. And he's down on the Steelers. And I said, I'll tell you what, this recent trade, I said, Fitzpatrick leaves, but they get Smith, the tight end, and the cornerback, Ramsey. I think Pittsburgh is going to be a force to be reckoned with if Rodgers can stay healthy. That's a big if, but I think they are poised to be right there with Cincinnati and Baltimore. I have to see it to believe it as far as our team is concerned with contention. And last but not least, I mentioned there was a LeBron sighting. Well, there was a legitimate Taylor Swift sighting in Chagrin Falls with Kelsey. They had lunch at JoJo's in Chagrin Falls. And there was a young boy. I saw a television clip. Young boy. He was a big Swiftie. And he had a Kansas City Chiefs hat on. Now, how did the Browns win that kid over? Good luck. Forget it. That's an insurmountable task there, Ryan.
Come on now. If he's from Cleveland, ditch all that. I don't care about Taylor Swift. You're from Cleveland. Rep the Browns. Once they're good, Bruce, we're going to reap the benefits, and it's going to feel like the best feeling in the world.
I don't think that kid couldn't care less about the Chiefs. He was a Swiftie. All right. Lay it on me.
All righty, we're doing Ask Bruce here. Hey, Bruce, do you predict Chase Slaughter and CJ K-Face to get called up before or after the MLB trade deadline?
Oh, I think I hope it's before, as I've been preaching here on the show. Let's get these kids up there and get their feet wet and ready for 2026. There's no substitute. I've preached it for decades. There is no substitute for experience, especially playoff experience. But we're not going to make the playoffs this year. So get them up here, get their feet wet. Let's set our sights on 2026.
Alrighty. Hey, Bruce, is it fair to criticize Stephen Vogt for failing to light a fire under the team after Jose got thrown at against the Blue Jays?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, I guess so. But, yeah, I've always liked managers coming out, whether it's an act or not. I mean, Piniella and Weaver were two of the biggest actors. I think Billy Martin was real serious. He wanted to kill the umpires. He really did. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And it's also very entertaining. So, but if you're insinuating that Vogt is losing the team, that's not the case at all.
Alrighty. Hey, Bruce, should Guardians fans be upset that the front office was unwilling to pay Boyd to bring him back?
No, because that's our trend. We have financial restraints, which I understand. A lot of fans don't, unfortunately. But if you look at all the other mid-level market teams, they're in the same boat as us always, every year. And if you look at the success of the Indians, now Guardians, considering those financial restraints, teams have been pretty successful, although the big prize has obviously been not winning the World Series longer than any other franchise in baseball.
Alrighty, hey Bruce, if Shane Bieber undergoes another injury setback, could you see the Guardians willing to make a starting pitching acquisition before the trade deadline?
I don't think so, because I think the front office is going to realize what I've been preaching here the last few weeks. The division is out of sight. Wild card's a long shot, too. The wild card's realistic, but the math doesn't work for me. I'd rather be in a selling mode and see what we can get. And like I say, bring these kids up. No, I don't see that happening. And besides, if indeed Bieber, even if Bieber doesn't pitch at all this year, and he's going to, he hasn't had any major setbacks. Next year, Bieber, Bybee, Williams, Ciccone, and Ortiz is strong. That's strong. I like that for 2026.
Alrighty, last one for you, Bruce, as we're wrapping up on bonus time. Your thoughts on Bo Naylor as we reach the halfway way of the season, and do you actually see a future where he can be a consistent contributor for the Cleveland Guardians?
I'd be a liar if I didn't tell you that I'm disappointed in Naylor. I thought he'd be a lot better major league hitter than what he has shown. Obviously, he has big-time underachieved. We've had a real problem with that catching situation. I mean, look at the differential between what Mariners are getting out of Raleigh compared to our combined catching offensive statistics. I mean, it's a joke. Even before that with Perez and now Hedges, who was a great clubhouse leader, but that only goes so far. Come on. So, yeah, it's been a big disappointment in that lack of offensive production in the catching position. All right, that's all the time we've got for this week's version of Bonus Time with Drennan here on the Big Play Sports Network. I want to thank Ken Miles, our CEO here at Big Play, for joining us and sharing that insight on the passing of Dwayne Lukas. That was good stuff. All right, have a great week. We will see you next week on the show. I'm Bruce Drennan on behalf of Ryan Smith. Until then, as always, and most importantly, you remember, I love you, Ohio, and I love you, Cleveland.